In this lecture, we're going to finish up our showcode by making this login form work. Inside the main.js file, I'm going to copy and paste the previous JavaScript code we used. I'm going to change a lot of this code from the fields to status messages so they reflect on the login form instead. The action will be recipe user login. Make sure to update the status messages and selections. Nothing crazy here, it's what we did previously. Create a new AJAX action hook with no privilege. I'm going to copy and paste the action I used in the form object like so. Create a file inside the process folder called login.php and define the function inside here. Make sure to include it from the main plugin file. Inside this function, I'm going to grab the first few lines from the create account file and paste it in here. I'm creating an output variable, grabbing and verifying the nonce, and then checking to see if the username and password was submitted. I'm going to remove the email and password confirmation from this check. Really nothing new so far. Then, I'm going to create a new variable named user that will contain the value returned by the function wp-signon. This function will authenticate users for you. This is the function I recommend you use when you're authenticating users who have already logged in before. This function has two parameters. The first is an array of the login credentials it will use to verify and authenticate the current user. There are three fields we can set. The user login accepts the username. I'm going to sanitize this while I'm at it. The next key is the user password, which accepts the password. Lastly, the remember key allows you to specify whether the user should be remembered on this device. I'm going to set this to true. This will sign the user in. Just to make sure, we're going to create another conditional statement checking if this function returns an error object using the isWpError function. If it is an error object, then we'll just kill the script. Otherwise, we'll update the status to 2 and kill the script once more. That will take care of everything. If you haven't already, log out and then try logging in. After confirming that everything works, there's one last thing we want to do. We're almost finished, I promise. If you were to go to the admin dashboard and navigate to Settings, General, you'll find a setting called Anyone Can Register. This setting controls WordPress's registration form. Even if this is ticked off, plugins can still create accounts with code. We're going to use this setting to our advantage. I want to hide the form if the registration is disabled. We'll start by creating a placeholder inside the template. Find the div tag that contains the whole registration form. Add show reg form. We'll replace this placeholder with a style attribute. Inside the shortcut function, add another string replacement function. For the replacement function, we're going to use a ternary operator. We'll be performing a check using a function called getOption. We haven't discussed the options API, but this function will grab the options from the options table. Using HeidiSQL, you can open up the WP options table. WordPress stores all of its settings here. It also stores transients and plugin options. One of the options is users can register. This is the option that is updated when you update the checkbox on the admin settings page. If the value is 0, then that means registration is closed. If it's 1, then that means registration is open. We can pass this into the getOption function and it'll tell us whether or not registration is open. If this function returns true, we'll hide the registration form with a simple display CSS style. Otherwise, it'll be empty and display as is. Save your work, update the settings to disable registration, and try viewing the form. It should not display, The very last thing I want to do is hide these forms if the user is logged in. Right now, I'm logged in, and it should not be displaying. Inside the shortcut function, create a conditional statement at the very top. Call the function isUserLoggedIn. If this returns true, we'll just return an empty string. Refresh the page, and you should see nothing appear. That's it. We're finally finished. It was a lot to go through, but well worth it.